So then that will take us to, I just got to plug in my little portable keyboard here because my keyboard doesn't work.
A mock draft.
So that will take us to our mock Glen and Matt's Ice the Kicker mock draft 1.0. This is going to be the first of many. I am a huge mock draft fan.
How many mock drafts do you do per year?
Oh my God. I'm probably like one a night. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I love to use the draftnetwork.com. One of the Dolphins, he's a podcaster, Kyle Krabs. He's the senior draft analyst and one of the founders of the Draft Network. And I really love how accurate I believe that their mock drafts are. So for this mock draft, we are going to basically try to pretend we're the GM of every single team.
Wonderful.
And kind of talk through what we think is the first round. Eventually in the offseason, we're going to try to dive into at least the Giants and the Dolphins and probably the Jets too, doing a full 7-round mock draft. We'll hopefully try to get to all 32 teams, but we will get there eventually. So
what are we starting with?
So we're going to do we're going to do the whole first round. So just whole first round, and we're going to decide what we think each team is going to do.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
So this should. So here we go. So obviously, again, not a doubt in anybody's mind that Trevor Lawrence is going first. Again, we don't even need to waste our time with that. Now, the bigger question, like we referenced earlier, is what do the Jets do?
What are the Jets going to do?
I will leave this one to you.
I don't. Oh, this kills me, man. I hope Garrett's watching because I know Garrett's agonizing over what's going to happen in the end of April with this pick. On one hand, you have these quarterbacks available, Wilson, Fields, whoever there is. But at the other hand, you have these, electric can't miss wide receivers that are really going to help out Sam Darnold if they decide to go that route. So it all depends on if this organization thinks that Sam can win games. And what I said earlier in the show is that I feel like Sam deserves a shot with competent coaching and a competent organization. So I'm going to go under the assumption that they hold on to Sam and they take Devontae Smith from Alabama.
Very, very interesting there. So right off the bat, we got Trevor Lawrence and Devontae Smith going to the New York Jets. So now I'm going to put on.
And one more thing on the Jets. If you have, a wide receiver core with Sam Darnold, with Mims, right? And Devontae Smith, that's pretty. So like Mims missed some time. So if you get a full season under his belt and then Devontae Smith, then there's no excuse for Sam Darnold not to be good anymore.
So now shifting over to the Dolphins. So team needs, they say, wide receiver, running back, offensive tackle, linebacker, interior offensive line, edge, yada, yada. Even it says wide receiver twice. That's how desperate they are for some wide receiver help. So again, I'm not opposed to going Sewell. I totally get the idea, but I think what I said about earlier is that, and you said too, get the grown men to protect the kids, basically. Have the big uglies up front be of the older, mature stature.
Yeah.
I don't really want projects from a protection standpoint. I want sure finished things. I don't want to take a gamble on the foundation of my house. So
especially because, you waited a generation to get Tua, right? You waited so long to get that quarterback. Now it's time to get something around him. And the Dolphins have the cap space, right? They have cap space.
Yes.
So use that cap space on getting grown men to protect your prized possession as an organization in Tua. And then use the draft to give him a weapon.
Yeah. So going off what you just said and what I'm about to do, I'm going Jalen Waddle from Alabama, reuniting Tua with his former teammate. And then we're going to do it now down in South Beach.
Okay.
So now this is an interesting one because, again, team needs says QB, edge, tight end, linebacker. Again, I don't see them going with Jamar Chase. That just it doesn't seem
No.
to make much sense.
And I think
Now,
something
their team,
we need to think about this. We didn't talk about it before when we talked about quarterbacks moving. Could Matt Ryan be out
mhm,
the door?
again, that's something that I think is very interesting and could be a huge possibility as well. And if not out the door, could he be gone within 2 years? So that's where, again, I definitely do think that they
Mhm.
are a QB needy team here. So what do you think they should do?
I never thought of them as a team that's going to pick a quarterback, but now that I'm looking at it and thinking about Matt Ryan's future, I'm kind of intrigued by the possibility of them taking a quarterback. Um, I feel like Justin Fields would be a good fit. I feel like he'd be a
Uh,
better fit
mm-hmm,
for Atlanta than he would for the Jets or Dolphins. And you're
mm-hmm,
looking, later on, I'm looking above with, the Bengals aren't going to draft a quarterback. The Eagles might. The Lions won't because they have Goff now. And then you got the Panthers. You might think if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, this might be our shot to get the replacement for Matt Ryan because we're hopefully not going to be a top 4 team in the draft
mm-hmm,
next year or within the next few years. So maybe now, even if you don't plan to play Fields right away, maybe now you pick him and you just have him learn a year under Matt Ryan or whatever veteran quarterback they have there. And then,
mm-hmm.
by 2022, you let him ride. So I'm leaning towards Fields at this point. I don't know if you
I
agree with me.
definitely, yes, no, I definitely, I think Fields or Wilson, it doesn't really matter who you get because either one isn't going to play for the first year, if not two anyway. And I think that's a perfect situation for both these guys to be in and to go play with a guy like Julio Jones and learn from him and then go play under a guy like Matt Ryan. Again, I think it's a no brainer. So which of the two quarterbacks do you want to lock in here?
Um, let's go Fields for fun.
Got it. So we got Fields now going to
It could be Wilson, but
Atlanta.
this is our
Yeah.
mock draft, and we can do whatever we want. If you don't like it,
And keep
make your own mock draft. Host your own
keep yeah
podcast.
keep keep in mind Justin Fields is from Georgia. I think he
There it
is from
is.
that
Yeah,
Atlanta area. So
you convinced me.
that will be very cool little reunion there. Now going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now
Hmm.
everybody LSU fan, Bengals fan is going to say Jamar Chase, get that reunion, blah blah blah. I'm going to say absolutely not.
Hmm.
Again, it sounds nice. It would be cool. It would sell jerseys, but they need protection.
Exactly.
They need Panay Sewell
Hmm.
more than any team in the top five.
And
It is they're so desperate.
I think what gives them the, I guess, leeway to take Sewell, like our philosophy, for the last 5 minutes is like, don't draft an offensive lineman in the first round, sign grown men. With
Mm-hmm,
Burrow not going to be available for at least the first 3 quarters of next year, you
mm-hmm.
have the time to I guess
See it through.
ease Sewell into being a NFL lineman by the
Mm-hmm,
and by the time Burrow comes back, either week 14, 15, 16, 17 of next year, or possibly not even until 2022, by the time Burrow is healthy and under center, Sewell will get over, the rookie mistakes that every rookie offensive lineman has. He'll learn, I guess, the playbook and the coverages and, get stronger to deal with the edge rushers of NFL defensive line, and he'll be ready to really protect Burrow by the time Burrow comes back. I think this is a no-brainer at this point with Sewell.
I think so too. I think that's going to be an early card that they walk to the podium there. So we're sending Panay Sewell from Oregon to go be the blindside protector of the Bengals' hopeful franchise
And it
quarterback in
doesn't
Joe
make sense for
Burrow.
them to draft a wide receiver this year because, again, they don't have the quarterback for the majority of next year anyway. So what's the point of
Mm-hmm,
drafting the wide receiver first round if you're not going to have Burrow out there and you're not going to be playing to really win? So you would
mm-hmm.
assume that with Burrow out the majority of next year, if not all of next year, that they'll be right back in with a top 5 draft pick to get a wide receiver next year anyway.
Yeah. So now Eagles are an interesting one. Again, it
Mm-hmm.
says team needs, it says wide receiver, tight end, cornerback, linebacker, quarterback, then a bunch of other stuff. Now, I think, again, there's looking at the offensive line. Again, you got Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, offensive tackle, ranked at 11. After that, I got Samuel Cosme at offensive tackle from Texas at 13. But they're a weird team
Hmm.
because again, I don't think they're going to go quarterback because obviously I think they saw enough in Jalen Hurts to
Yeah, and
like what they
it looks
saw
like
there.
Wentz is going to be out the door eventually within the next couple of weeks.
See, now the question is, are you going to get Jamar Chase
Mhm.
and to pair him up with Jalen Rieger, who was a first rounder last year, and then JJ Arcia Whiteside, who was a second rounder the year before? It's like it almost seems redundant, I guess you could say. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think you look if you're the Eagles, you're looking behind you, right? And
Hmm.
obviously this is a mock draft, so we're not going to put together trades because that would take way too much time. But I think
Yeah.
that's a possibility for the Eagles in real life. But if they're going to
Hmm.
stay at 6, you look behind you. You got the Cowboys at 10 and 11. You got Cowboys at 10, Giants at 11. So you got to assume that you got to look at their needs as well, and maybe even try to block who they
Hmm.
would pick and take them yourself, kind of like as a double whammy. Not only do you make them worse with them when not
Hmm.
wanting, with them not getting what they want, but you also got what they want and make yourself better. So, like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they get a wide receiver, knowing that the Giants need a wide receiver, or getting a edge rusher or an offensive lineman because they know that's what the Cowboys need. So I think that's something you need to put
Hmm.
into account as well. I don't see wide receiver because I just I just
So,
don't see wide receiver though. It
so
might
now keep in
maybe
mind,
Pitts because I think
yes. So
isn't Kelsey's gone, right? Or what's his? I'm
you
sorry,
mean Ertz?
Ertz. Yeah, isn't Ertz going to be out the
Yes.
door? Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I was gonna kind of get into. I think Kyle Pitts is a perfect fit for the Eagles because
Mm-hmm.
he is a tight end. He's a fantastic receiver
Mm-hmm.
also.
And
And
it's such
again,
an easy replacement too. It
yes,
seems a perfect replacement for
I
Ertz.
think so too. I'm definitely, if I was the Eagles, I'd lock that in very early.
Yeah, I would go Pitts as well. Pitts was a
So
guy that's
we'll
been on the
throw in.
Giants' radar. I've seen a lot of mock drafts
Hmm.
saying Pitts to the Giants, and obviously in our first mock draft, Pitts will not be going to the Giants. But I just wanted to say,
Yeah.
as good as Pitts is, I think I said this on a show before. It would be a disappointment for me for the Giants to take Pitts because that's admitting that you fucked up a first round pick in Ingram. Now Ingram
Hmm.
obviously has been a disappointment. They would have made the playoffs if he just would have caught a few catches instead of dropping them
Hmm.
and then getting tipped into the air and picked off. But it's kind of if the Giants end up with Pitts, obviously they're getting a great player, but like, if you just didn't fuck up with Evan Ingram, then you would have a tight end already, and then you wouldn't need to, I guess, admit your mistake and then go backwards and get
Hmm.
another one. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's kind of me being on Pitts for the Giants.
So now the Lions are interesting because
Mm-hmm.
you referenced earlier how they probably won't go quarterback because they we assume they like Goff. Now, how much do they like Jared Goff is the
I think they like
question.
Goff to give him a shot. They like him enough to give him a shot. They wouldn't have made that trade and then took
Hmm.
Goff back if they
Hmm.
didn't intend on playing him, I feel.
For at least
For
two
at
or
least
3 years,
1 year.
whatever.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
got so much and the quarterback. So
So,
if they didn't like Goff, they just would have asked for a pick, another pick
hmm,
instead of Goff. And they would have they
yeah.
would have told the Rams to deal with it on your own time with what to do with Goff still on the roster. So I truly believe that Goff is going to be the quarterback going into the 2021 season for Detroit.
So we'll take away no quarterbacks then for the Lions. Then to me, I feel like Jamar Chase seems like the perfect fit here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they went cornerback last year with Jeff Okuda. Even though he had a bad year, I don't see them doubling up on quarterbacks, both within last year being the third overall pick, and
Mm-hmm.
then this year now being the seventh. I don't see them going cornerback. I feel like Jamar Chase makes sense, especially because either Marvin Jones or Kenny Galladay potentially both and Kenny Galladay aren't going to be playing for the Detroit Lions. So I think you get same thing with the Eagles. You get Jamar Chase and you get one of their two replacements.
When's their are they what they have the Rams pick in this draft too?
Um,
Do they have the Rams
we
first round
can
pick
let's
from the Stafford
find.
trade?
I'm trying to see. They
I would
no
assume
because
no.
no because the Rams don't have
Oh, they don't have
a
one.
draft pick. Yeah,
Mm.
so that they only have one this year.
I mean, you look at the team needs, it goes one wide receiver, then two cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
If I mean you got Goff, you might as well get him a toy, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
even though they never did.
I
Even though they never did that for Stafford in 10 years,
yeah.
especially
I,
after Calvin retired.
mhm.
I guess Chase.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think again,
Jamar
it
Chase.
just it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Now,
I'm
I
reluctant
think
on that because I really want the Giants to get him, but it looks like
yeah,
it's not going to make it.
again, that's something that Giants fan needs to think about, saying, hey,
Hmm.
maybe they have to trade up, and maybe they trade up with the team, and you give them Evan Ingram, plus you swap that first round pick. Is that enough to get them into that top 7?
Yeah, and another team that's going to have to think about trading, up a couple spots in draft is the team that's next is the Broncos, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming that we're going to look at the Panthers and say that Zach Wilson might be headed there in our mock draft.
Yes, I definitely agree. Again, there's not really much debate around it. They need a quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is not the answer there, and Zach Wilson is the best of the quarterbacks that are left. So again, very easily going to lock that in. But it is interesting because the Panthers are a team that I think could even trade up, say, with a team like the Dolphins or the Falcons,
And they might
because
they also might even bring in a veteran too. They might even bring in like a guy that's out there,
a
Garoppolo of the
Fitzpatrick.
world, a Fitzpatrick of the world, a Dak maybe. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so one of the things that this mock draft really doesn't account for is what are teams going to do
In
before the
free agency.
draft in terms of free
Mm-hmm.
agency and trading.
So now we go on to the Broncos, and they're going to need some help on the defensive side. Again, I do
Yeah,
not think that Drew Lock is the answer there, but I do not think he is
I
going
don't
to
think
get
he's a top
replaced
10
anytime
pick.
soon. Yeah, so that's where I think they are going to need some help on that defense.
Oh,
Again,
I'm sorry.
they're
I'm
probably
sorry. Let me rephrase. Trey Lance, I don't think is a top 10
yes,
pick.
yes, yes, yeah. My
I
bad.
think quarterback's up there, but I think they can address defense, and then I think Lance could follow them in the second round. So I don't think that they'll
Yeah.
draft Lance 4, even though they need a quarterback. I think they
Mm-hmm.
can upgrade, as you said, upgrade their defense at 9, and then cross your fingers and hope that either Lance or whatever other quarterback out there, the Florida Trask, the Florida kid, is
Mm-hmm.
there in the second round.
So I would say that again, cornerback it says is their number one team need. Should we just lock in Patrick Surtain, a
Yeah,
very good,
sure.
well-tooled cornerback out of Alabama? Can't
That's
really go
cool
wrong
for
with
me.
any
Yeah.
Alabama
Hmm.
prospects. Now, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Again, let's assume they get Dak Prescott. So they
Mhm.
get him back. They don't need to worry about quarterback. Now, they're a team that I think is desperate for some offensive line help, but I also think they're a team that needs cornerback help too.
Mhm.
I mean, they lost Byron Jones to free agency. They haven't really done anything to address it really. So that to me is kind of a couple team needs there. I still would lean more towards that offensive line, especially with uh, Ferguson retiring. So
Mhm.
curious your thought process there.
Yeah, we kind of made it known that we kind of like paying top dollar for an offensive lineman who's a veteran rather than drafting an unknown. But that secondary for the Cowboys really got burnt this year, and we can talk all we
Mm-hmm.
want about how they got a raw deal this year because Dak got hurt, but that team had a lot of problems before Dak got hurt, right? Like they were
Yeah.
still they were still in the NFC East. They were still not winning. I don't think they had a winning record going into that Giants game where Dak got hurt, and I think that their
Mm-hmm.
defense got the defense, gets killed a lot. So I think definitely
Yeah.
addressing the secondary would probably be their best bet because they did go first round offense last year, getting CD Lamb. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'll go offense 2 straight years, especially wide
Mm-hmm.
receiver or any other weapon for Dak Prescott. So I think they'll go defense round 1.
So let's lock in Caleb Farley,
Okay.
a another good cornerback prospect, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Now you're New York Football Giants, and
Now
now
with none
you
of the
look at
receivers, with none of the receivers available, and Pitt's not there anymore. So all the weapons that you could have gotten for Jones are gone, and that's no fault of your own. They just got picked ahead of you. Um,
mm-hmm.
at this point, with the way if the first 10 picks go the way that this is going, if I'm the
Mm-hmm.
Giants, I'm getting an edge rusher at 11. I'm getting
So
a pass rush guy at 11 to go along with um blanking on the
Leonard
name.
Williams.
Leonard Williams, yeah. and just getting, the OC to Strahan, the Kiwanuka to Tuck.
Hmm.
The Giants historically have been at their best when they have multiple guys that can get to the quarterback. Right now, they just have one. So I would get that
Yeah.
second edge guy.
So again, you would lock in then Quiddy Pay there, edge
Mhm.
guy out of Michigan, who is a absolute freak. I mean,
Yep.
let's look
Totally
at
fine
some
with
of
that.
his 6'4",
Hmm.
277 pounds. Hard
Hmm.
to say no to. Now, looking at this draft class right now, if this were or this draft right now, if this were to happen on draft night, is this worst case scenario as the Giants? Again, not saying Quiddy Pay is a bad pick, but you clearly
I
want
think it
some
is.
weapons and want some help.
I don't think worst case scenario is the fair terminology to use because you're going to get a
Mhm.
good player. But I think that the the number one goal for the Giants this offseason is to get Daniel Jones, put Daniel Jones in the best possible situation to be a successful quarterback. And to do that, he needs wide receivers that are a little bit better than Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard. No disrespect to Shepard because I like him.
Mhm.
And you need that guy, you need that
Mhm.
number one guy that Jones can rely on. So if this is where the Giants are looking at 11, that would be, not ideal. But again, you're going to get a good player, and you just got to hope
Yeah.
that Gettleman and Mara figure something out elsewhere to get that receiver.
So let's lock in then Quiddy Pay, edge rusher out of Michigan for the New York Football Giants.
Go ahead.
Now moving on to a team that is confusing again
They're a
because
good team, though. They're a
yeah,
good
that's what I
team. They
mean.
just had a bad year.
Yeah, and obviously they were very, very banged up, but it's definitely prevalent that they don't really love Jimmy Garoppolo. They may like
Mhm.
him a little bit still, but there's definitely not a full blown reciprocal relationship going
I don't
on
think
there.
I don't think it's I don't think they're gonna pick Lance though.
No, I don't think
I
so
think the
either.
quarterback they get, it's either going to be Garoppolo or I think they're going to bring someone in that's currently in the league.
So yeah, I definitely would have to agree there too. Now, Trent Williams, the guy they traded for last year, they traded with the Washington football team. Let's assume he gets re-signed. So to me, that would kind of take away tackle. I mean, again, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to. I mean, we're seeing here that there's what, three offensive linemen kind of left here just kind of staring at us. So think, do they go offensive line? I feel like judging by their team needs, saying they need interior offensive line, probably. Again, I'm not too well versed on the 49ers team needs, but outside of quarterback. So I guess you lock in just the best lineman available.
Yeah, I would go best player available at that point. That's fair.
And now the Los Angeles Chargers obviously have figured out their quarterback for at least 2021, and
Yeah,
I'm sure many years
sure the next
past that.
decade.
Yeah, they are a team, and they got Kenneth Murray and obviously Justin Herbert last year. Kenneth Murray
Hmm.
being the linebacker out of Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Again, what's staring at me right now is Micah Parsons being the talent that he is, but being this low. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this is kind of what happens every year: is that teams don't need a guy who, even though he could be a top five talent, and I think the Chargers, you need to get your franchise quarterback some protection. I saw a stat the other day that the Chargers were like 30th to 32nd in offensive offensive line play,
Yeah.
judging by their pass percentage kind of wins and their run percentage
Hmm.
blocking wins. So again, going with let's say Samuel Cosme, offensive tackle out of Texas, 6'7", 300 pounds.
Hmm.
Sounds pretty good to me. A guy who played in the Big 12. He's obviously playing against a lot of great other talent. I think that makes the most sense to me. Again, I don't think linebacker is going to be addressed. Again, you're not going to go running back or cornerback. That just, it doesn't really make much sense, especially because you have Austin Eckler there. So I would definitely be very happy if I was a Chargers fan if you lock in any of these kind of three offensive tackles here. We'll just go best player available according to these draft rankings.
Yeah, I would do that as well. The next seven picks are tough because there are teams that need things, like need a lot of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they're in that kind of like twilight zone kind of. You can't really get like the stud guy that's really
Mm-hmm.
going to put you over the top, but you're also not going to get a bad guy. You know what I'm trying to say? Like definitely like in the NBA, Like if you're in the lottery, if you're like 1 to 5, you're gonna get a guy that's gonna be really good. But then if you're
Yes.
outside the lottery, you're gonna get a good basketball player in the mid to late first round, but you're not gonna get a franchise changing guy. And I think that's kind of the situation we have from 14 to 20.
Yeah, and again, and these are where the great teams like the Steelers and Ravens, who pick usually year in and year out, even later than this, they
Mm-hmm.
still hit on guys. So this is
Yep.
where
This is
you
where
have to,
the intelligence of the scouting department and your organization really comes into play.
yeah. So Vikings are a funny team. They almost made a little late run to get back into the playoffs there early on in the season. I think they were tanking for Trevor Lawrence a little bit, but then they ran into some fire there towards the end of the season. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs, but they almost did. Justin Jefferson, absolute stud. Congrats to them for having one of the best wide receivers, I think, just period in the league for at least the next 4 years until his rookie contract is up. Again, they're a team we didn't reference earlier that I think is ready to move on from Kirk Cousins. And I think contractually they won't. I think he'll just play out his deal. It might be 1 or 2 years left, but they're a team that I would say is probably going to want to draft a quarterback. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can definitely see them wanting to draft a quarterback. I mean, they gave Kirk Cousins all that money after he had that one like great run with them, and then he obviously had some couple good years with Washington. But I think that they might. It all depends on if they can find a deal or with a player or with another team to trade that is better than what Trey Lance is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
hmm. Under the circumstance that they don't and they're here on draft day and Trey Lance is available and they didn't get anyone else, I can see them getting Trey Lance, I guess. But is he that much
Yeah,
better? Is he that much better immediately than Kirk Cousins? Like
I think
is Trey Lance a franchise quarterback?
again, I think the level of unknown is enough for me as the Vikings to take a chance on him. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
think with where you see kind of who else is left
Mm-hmm.
here, and again, it's such a shame for me to say who else is left when we're only at pick 14 of the first round. I just Micah Parsons obviously would be a great fit, but is that doing anything for their franchise? And I think their franchise is going to need a lot of uplift once Kirk Cousins gets out of there. And I think Trey Lance is a guy that you'd be willing to kind of try to build your offense around. And you have guys like Thielen already and Dalvin Cook, and you have guys like Justin Jefferson. You have the weapons. Now you kind of just need someone a little bit more dynamic to be the point guard in that offense. And that's where I kind of think Trey Lance is going to fit best for them.
Okay. I'll do.
Let's lock in that.
I'll go with that. Yeah. All right, we're at 15. We're at an hour and a half in of our podcast, so we're going to
Yeah.
pick up the pace just a little bit.
Yes.
Also, as we get later in the draft, that the teams are better, so we don't need to really elaborate on what
Mm-hmm.
they definitely need. The Patriots are interesting because none of the quarterbacks are left. They need a quarterback. We're assuming that they're going to get the quarterback. Now, what is Bill Belichick going to do? Now, Bill Belichick had so many successful seasons having that quarterback tight end kind of tandem to that to be the focal point of the offense. I wonder if they get the quarterback, whether it be, bring back Garoppolo and running it back with him, because we know that the Patriots love them some Jimmy G. Maybe they get the best available tight end left and try to recreate the magic that they had with the Brady, Hernandez, Gronk era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I think Pat Fryermuth is a very good receiving tight end. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
he's
I don't.
6'5".
But what I'm looking at now is it doesn't really look like he's projected to go first round.
Yeah, not yet. Again, he would be maybe a last pick in the first round. But I think for right now, again, it's like I think the question is, do they quote unquote reach for Mac Jones here?
Yeah, I th- I I think they're going to go outside the organization for quarterback in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
free agency draft. I don't think they'll bring back Cam. I think Cam's done.
Mm-hmm.
Mac Jones. I can't even imagine 6 quarterbacks in the first round. We'll be talking about that forever.
Yeah.
Um, You know what, they might, because they're looking back in the draft and they're gonna see Washington and Chicago and Indianapolis right there, and they might
Mhm.
not get another chance at drafting Mac Jones if they pass on him here.
So this is going to be probably the first like, oh crap moment in the draft,
Yeah,
and we're going to see Mac Jones go a lot higher than anybody probably thought he would. So
and
let's
of
lock
course
in
it'll be the
now, Mac.
Patriots to do this.
Again, and that's what I would expect nothing less from them. I would
Mhm.
trust them honestly to get the most out of Mac Jones.
Yeah,
Now we go on to the Cardinals, who had a very kind of year. I mean,
yeah,
again, they started off hot. They had the whole Hail Murray thing. That was
Mhm.
cool. They got DeAndre Hopkins, but
Yeah.
they didn't
That's
really do
exactly.
that
They got
much.
they got Murray, they got Hopkins. Get some defensive guys.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is where I think Micah Parsons, being the talent that he is, I think it makes perfect sense for them
Mm.
to lock him in right here, and you tandem him with Buda Baker in the as a safety and Isaiah Simmons that they draft last year. And again, those are three centerpieces to your defense up the middle. There, I think makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Now, the Raiders have been trying to replace Khalil Mack for the second they got rid of him.
Hmm.
Now, you look here, you have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame, who's a great linebacker, very versatile guy, but not an edge rusher. I'm looking. This is the first edge rusher that kind of comes to mind here in the draft. I mean, another guy out of Texas, Joseph Asai, 6'3", 245. Again, freak athlete, great build, great size, a little bit more of a speed rusher. I don't know where else they would kind of go. Besides, I mean, and they could go linebacker, but I feel like they've been dying for that edge rusher. So
Yeah, they play in the same division as Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. They're gonna need a guy that can bring them down if they want to compete in that division in any time soon. Because obviously Mahomes is 25 and Herbert was what, 21, so they're gonna be there for a
mhm,
while. So I think that the Raiders definitely need a guy that can make them uncomfortable.
yeah. So let's lock in Joseph Asai, edge rusher out of Texas for the Las Vegas Raiders. I may have said Oakland before. Now back to my team, the Miami Dolphins. Again, in a fan's world, I think Najee Harris is the absolute perfect pick here.
Mhm.
I think it makes total sense. Now, do I think Flores might have a little more say than Chris Greer here with this pick? And I think a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a perfect versatile guy for his multiple defense that he likes to run. Now, again, if this were the cards he was dealt between those two, I think the fact that Najee Harris got a chance to get coached under Flores at the Senior Bowl, and I think the Dolphins are fully committed to Tua, I think they make this pick here. And
Yeah.
again, I know we talked about how you don't necessarily want to draft running backs too early because they're very easy to find, I
Mhm.
believe. I think Najee Harris is a guy who could be great for many, many years in this league. And I think you put him with Tua, now also with Jalen Waddle, too. You're basically just creating the Alabama Dolphins. I'm all for that. And I think Chris Greer and Brian Flores of the Miami Dolphins would be for that, too.
Yeah, I think you have Tua, then you get the wide receiver and the running back, and then you still have money and you still have picks after this. I think that the Dolphins could afford to go against the, I guess, the rule or the
Yeah.
unwritten rule of drafting running back round one. I think that all of a sudden you have a loaded offense with Tua, and after that it goes all on Tua. Like, we gave you what you needed to
Yeah.
succeed, now you have to succeed, and we can't have
Yeah.
any calls to the bullpen anymore.
hmm So now moving on to the Washington football team. Again, number one team need, I think, is still quarterback. I don't think Alex Smith is going to be the guy there.
I think they'll
Neither
get.
is
I think they'll get a quarterback somewhere else.
I think so too. I mean, again, just looking at the draft here, them making the playoffs at what 8-8, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
clearly hurt themselves here. Otherwise, they probably would have been what top 13, where you maybe would have been in play for a quarterback. I don't think Kyle Trask kind of goes up here. It says, and I don't think they're going to go wide receiver either. And again, there's some kind of towards the back end. Their defense is already pretty good. I would say the logical decision would be get the best offensive lineman available, and that's Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech,
Yeah.
like 6'5", 314. I mean, that's just, again, these are absolute behemoths. So
Hmm.
You get this guy, you trust your coaches to kind of fine tune his mechanics. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. Again, there's just not a lot of, high quality talent that's worthy of a first round pick at the, weapon position for these teams.
Hmm.
Unless you're like the Jets or Dolphins where you already did earlier in the draft.
Yeah. So now moving on to the Chicago Bears, and again, they're a team that we believe needs to again address quarterback, but I don't think Kyle Trask is going to be the answer here at pick number 20. Now, I think they're a team
Hmm.
that already kind of used up the window for Khalil Mack. So I feel like they're going to need to bolster that defense a little bit more. And I know they have Roquan Smith, linebacker, who's absolutely electric, one of the better linebackers in the sport of football. But I feel like again, the other actually I think this name just popped up. Gregory Rousseau out of Miami, edge guy. I think he could be the heir to Khalil Mack because I think by the time they're competitive, the Bears, like I was referencing before, Khalil Mack will be gone. So they're going to need someone to kind of be his heir apparent. And I feel like a guy like Gregory Rousseau, who early on, like 3 months ago, was top 5 talent allegedly, but he's more of a raw prospect. So I think they have a good enough coaching staff to try to figure that out. What are your thought process there? You hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, I was just
I,
saying, what's your thought process there? I was saying probably lean more towards Gregory Rousseau out of Miami as the edge rusher.
Yeah, I definitely would go edge. I mean, now we're getting to the point where these teams made the playoffs, so now they're just fine tuning
Hmm.
their roster where they don't need to make those major changes. I know the Bears need a quarterback, and they'll do that in free agency or the trade. But once they get the quarterback, they have a playoff roster. The one thing that would change my, I guess, idea about that pick is if they lose Robinson, now they need to replace
Yeah.
Robinson. Now, how are they
Hmm.
gonna do that? I don't know if any of the wide receivers available. I don't know if Bateman, is he a first round kind of guy? Is he someone you can get later on?
Hmm.
But you can't go wrong with an edge guy.
Yeah. So now moving on to the Indianapolis Colts again. Quarterback needy team, no quarterbacks available. They obviously don't need a running back because of Jonathan Taylor. I think offensive line would make the most sense
Mm-hmm.
just because you have kind of Darius Leonard as your staple there at linebacker on the defense. And again, they have a lot of offensive linemen who are going to be free agents in a couple of years. So it's going to be tough for them to re sign all of them. I feel like, again, going best lineman available here. And that brings us to Elijah Vera Tucker, interior offensive lineman out of USC. I feel like makes the most sense. Again,
Yeah.
you also could go wide receiver, assuming they lose T.Y. Hilton. So it's kind of a toss up between those positions. Let's go wide receiver.
Let's
Actually,
go.
let's
Yeah,
go.
why not?
Yeah, let's go
I
Rashad
think
Bateman.
I
I mean,
think
he's an
one of these I
absolute.
think one of these teams are going to panic and take the receiver because they're seeing all the other ones go off the board, and
Mhm.
everyone wants to get their fix at wide receiver. So
Yeah,
I think that's where it's going to go.
and especially looking at the Tennessee Titans next, they're a team that is going to need receiver as well because Corey
Mm,
Davis is a free agent, and I don't know if they want to bring him back. So I think they help themselves while also handcuffing their divisional rival, and they
yeah.
go Rashad Bateman with the 21st pick, wide
Okay.
receiver out of Minnesota.
Hmm.
So now, Tennessee again, team needs a little bit of help on that defense. Again, they weren't as electric this year as they were in years prior. Again, they're going to lose, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney. I feel like he's going to be a guy who just keeps signing 1 year deals. I feel like he missed his window a little bit to sign that mega deal. Again, I know early on in free agency last year, the Dolphins offered him 15 mil a year, and he said, no, I want 20.
Mm.
So I don't really know what they
Yeah,
do there.
this is a Derrick Henry offense, and this is a Tannehill. When you need to make a throw, he can make a throw. So
Hmm.
you're not really asking Tannehill to like carry the load, and with that, you're not really asking the Titans to have a premier wide receiver because they have Henry to do the heavy lifting. You gotta you gotta keep the other team out of the end zone. So um, you gotta go edge. And what was the Achilles heel in the playoffs for Tennessee against Baltimore is that they let Lamar Jackson run wild. So they got to get someone who's gonna get him down in the backfield.
So that brings us another Miami edge guy, Jalen Phillips. He is 6'5", 258 again. Just
Mhm.
absolute freak. He 5-star athlete out of high school. Again, he was what did he got? Played 11 games in 2 seasons. Clearly was dealing with some injuries, but again, I think that's something that's just football. Again, I think
You
I
know what
think if
I
they
hate?
lock in this pick,
You know what I hate? All these kids were born in like 1999. Like,
I
what
know.
is this?
We're getting old right
We're
now.
getting, oh my God. Now we're at the Jets. I think the Jets are going to follow the same formula that the Dolphins are. They picked the wide receiver with their first pick, second overall in our mock with Smith. I think they give Darnold Smith. I think they're going to give Darnold the running back because, Frank Gore is 90 years old and he's not going to be around
Hmm.
forever. So get the Clemson kid. Definitely.
Yeah, Travis Etienne is absolutely electric. He's a home run hitter in the sense that when you give him the ball, there odds are he's going to kind of take it to the house if you give him the little bit of a hole. So I
Yeah,
think
now
again
you're giving
that
Darnold
that
Mims, you're giving Darnold
mhm.
Smith, you're giving him how do you pronounce his last name?
Etienne,
ETNA. You
yeah,
you buy him a tight end, and all of a sudden you have a pretty good offense around Darnold. And then, as we said about Tua, then it's up to the quarterback to be successful.
yeah. Now I think the Steelers again, a lot of holes again. I think they're
Ton.
going to lose Juju. I think that
I
they
think we're.
are.
I think I honestly, really, more that I think about it, I think we're going to see a significant drop off in wins for Pittsburgh. I think they're entering a little bit of a rebuild.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And I think losing Alejandro Villanueva. Is that the
Mhm.
name? I don't know. I know Villanueva. I think they just go try to plug and replace him. Elijah Vera Tucker, interior offensive lineman, some
Mhm.
versatility there out of USC. I think that just kind of makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Now moving on to the Jaguars again.
So they have
I,
Lawrence already.
yeah, so they already locked in Lawrence.
Even with Lawrence right away, they're not going to be a winning football team in year one with
Hmm.
Lawrence. So what I would do here is go against kind of my philosophy. I would get the offensive lineman to grow with Lawrence in this very interesting situation.
So
Because
that would bring us.
everybody loves him, right?
Hmm.
But with any quarterback that's a generational talent, got to keep him on the field. So let's
Hmm.
get him an offensive tackle that's going to grow with him year by year. And then in the future, we'll worry about getting him weapons when the Jaguars look like they're ready at that point.
Yeah. So let's lock in then Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle out of Michigan again. Michigan, I think, is just a great team that produces great prospects, but for some reason they just don't necessarily win when it comes to the Big Ten.
Yep.
Now looking at the Browns, and now we're getting to the teams that you could get anybody and
Yeah.
they'd be fine there. These
Yeah.
are all just, hey, you're really good at football. Come play for a great team. We'll make it
I
work.
think this is when we
Now,
see
I
more
think,
best available player kind of.
yeah, I think yeah, again, and then going off that, I think Jeremiah Wusu-Kormoa, I think he is a top 15 talent, and the fact that he's still here at 26, I
Mhm.
think that the Browns just lock in that right now. I think he's such a versatile guy, such a great player, very Micah Parsons esque, but just doesn't have as much
Mhm.
love or much hype around him. I think they lock him in right there.
I think all of these AFC contenders later on in the first round are looking at the Super Bowl that just happened and saying maybe there's a blueprint to stopping Patrick Mahomes and leapfrogging him for
Hmm.
the king of the AFC. So I think a lot of these teams, I'm looking right now, the Browns, who are picking now, the Ravens next pick, and then a little bit later, the Bills, I think they're all going to be looking at the defensive side, trying to get a linebacker, trying to get a pass rusher, because right now, the only real evidence of the Chiefs losing is getting Mahomes uncomfortable and out of the pocket. So I think they're going to go.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these teams are going to go defense at this point.
Yeah, and get kind of just we can make this next pick kind of short and sweet. I would say
Yeah.
the same thing. I mean, I think you go Zaven Collins, another very good prospect out of Tulsa, another linebacker. Let's pull this up real quick. 6'4", 260, 4-year starter, quarterback, and linebacker safety. Tulsa was the only Division I program offering
God,
scholarships. So clearly a
a
field
versatile kid.
general.
Yeah.
Yes, a field general. He knows what's going to happen. I think that's a guy that the Ravens, we obviously know, love defense. Seems simple enough to me. Lock that in.
I like it.
Now, Saints are an interesting one because
Mm-hmm.
they are definitely a playoff team ready to win. They do need a quarterback, but there's obviously none there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they may be wanting to move Michael Thomas. So that's where I would say, hey, maybe they go with the best wide receiver available.
Yeah.
And that would bring you Terrace Marshall Jr. out of, I believe it is LSU. So again, another guy who clearly got overshadowed by the fact that Jamar Chase played and Justin Jefferson played over him last year. And then this year, again, LSU just didn't do that well. But 6'3", 200 pounds, he's very similar in stature to a Michael Thomas. So why not give Jameis a Mike Evans type receiver who can high point the football and win those one-on-one battles? That to me, I think, is a nice fit for both parties there.
I agree. I think that under the assumption that they're going to run it with Jameis instead of going somewhere else, I think that you definitely would like to get a young kid in there to help Jameis high point the ball, win those 50-50 balls, because we know Jameis has trouble with turnovers. So I think that's a good spot.
So now going on to the Packers, and again,
get him a receiver.
You
got to get Rodgers.
Yeah, you just have to. Yeah, I think, again, as much as it says team needs offensive tackle, cornerback, I think you got to go receiver. And I think a guy like either Kadarius Toney or Rondell Moore, these are both absolute rack kings, run after catch, everything. They're guys who Aaron Rodgers always has to do the dirty work and throw the ball 50, 60, 65 yards to get kind of his guys doing stuff. You already have Devontae Adams, who's the one-on-one guy, can beat any coverage, but teams are going to start shifting to him, and you need more guys who can run that slant and then not just get tackled after 5 yards, but take it to the house. So that's where I would say a guy like Kadarius Toney, 5'11", 189. What do we got here? Anything interesting here? Electric slot receiver who's continued to improve every season in Gainesville. Tony's presence always felt whether or not he has the ball as he makes defensive count for him, even if he is strictly a motion player. And that's also what you're seeing too in today's NFL, where teams are constantly motioning guys to see what the defense is doing. He's a guy that can be used where you're using him in a lot of jet sweeps, stuff like that. Something with that they kind of tried with Tavon Austin, but didn't really work. So I think you get Rodgers his first round wide receiver weapon. You go with Kadarius Toney, who is a little different than the mold that they have there already in Green Bay.
Yeah, I can't even imagine them. They took Love last year. That pissed off Rodgers. Rodgers had an MVP season, got to the NFC Championship game again, won the MVP. They're not going to they can't disrespect him again, could they? I can't imagine.
No, absolutely cannot. So now again, these last three picks, again, you're going with the Bills. I feel like they're going to go, obviously, we're leaning more towards best player available. I think that linebacker seems fitting for them because Matt Milano is a free agent, and I don't know if he will get re-signed. So lock in Nick Bolton there, linebacker out of Missouri.
Yeah.
Chiefs are an interesting one.
Offensive line.
I feel like
you got to get an offensive line because they're going to be giving Mahomes so much money, so they really can't afford to buy an offensive lineman veteran. So they're going to have to develop one. And then we saw what happened in the Super Bowls, and I think that's where I think they're going to go offensive line.
Yeah, so that makes the most sense with me. So lock in best player here, offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State, and then now you're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl champions. What do they do? And again, they're a team that they don't really have many team needs.
Yeah, well, we started the show talking about the three free agents and who's most important to bring back. We both agreed that the edge, Shaq was the Shaq Williams.
Shaq Barrett,
Shaq Barrett was the I'm terrible with names. Shaq Barrett was the guy they're gonna have to bring back. Who we didn't say was gonna come back definitely was Gronk, and then the linebacker.
Levante David. Yes.
Levante David. So maybe trying to bookend this podcast, they use their 32nd pick to replace either Gronk or make a move at linebacker.
Yeah, so let's look real quick at, again, I don't know if there's any tight ends that really would fit the mold at pick 32.
I don't think there is. I think they can get somewhere
now
else.
I think, again, Dylan Moses, could it be a quote-unquote reach? Maybe, but again.
But they can afford, they won the Super Bowl. They can really afford.
Exactly, so you can't really go wrong with a Bama prospect. And I think Dylan Moses is a guy that may have been a little underwhelming this year, but in years past, he was a very highly sought-after prospect. And I would not be surprised if they locked in this pick. And again, we're obviously assuming they don't re-sign Levante David. So
Yeah,
I would feel very comfortable if they pick
picks
this.
25 to 32, you can afford these positions to not be, stars right away. They can really ease
Mhm.
themselves into their careers because you're not relying on them to win because you won already without them, and you probably would win without you won without them before, you'll win without them being stars now. So I think this is just, let's pick a guy who we think has a lot of potential, that might be a little bit of
Mhm.
a reach. And then because we're the Super Bowl champions and we're going to be fine, then we can have them ease into their, niche and in their career.
Yeah, so just wrapping up this slightly marathon of a podcast. We are sorry for that, but this has been a fun one, I have to say. So
Yeah, it's
wrapping
been
up
great.
this, we went number 1, Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence. Number 2, New York Jets, wide receiver Devontae Smith. Number 3, Miami Dolphins, Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama. Number 4, we went Falcons with Justin Fields. 5, Penei Sewell, offensive tackle out of Oregon for the Bengals. 6 for the Eagles, we had Kyle Pitts. 7 for the Lions, Jamar Chase. 8 for the Panthers, Zach Wilson. 9 for the Broncos, Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback out of Alabama.
Just say junior.
10 for the
second is stupid.
Junior, the second. Junior.
I'm not yelling at you.
Jr.
I'm yelling at him.
I got you. Dallas Cowboys. They're gonna pick Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech for the 10th pick. Then your favorite team, the New York Football Giants, are gonna go Kwity Paye, edge rusher, Michigan. Try to get back to those Super Bowl days with the OCU Manure, Michael Strahan,
Kiwanuka,
something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So going on to the 12th pick, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Yes. JPP, Super Bowl champion now with the Bucks. Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle for Northwestern. Then the Chargers getting Justin Herbert, their franchise quarterback, some help too on the offensive line. Samuel Cosme out of Texas. Then we have the Vikings getting Trey Lance. This was probably the first time where you're kind of like, oh my God, a little surprised with the pick here.
Mm-hmm.
I think this makes perfect sense, getting Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State for the Vikings. 15, again, another one, Patriots reaching maybe on a very good quarterback and prospect, Mac Jones out of Alabama. Now going to Arizona Cardinals again. I think another guy, Micah Parsons, who is a top 10 talent, but just happened to fall out of the top 10 out of Penn State here. We have the Raiders trying to salvage and get that replacement for Khalil Mack and Joseph Asai, edge guy out of Texas. The Dolphins again coming in at 18, getting Tua Tagovailoa, all the Alabama help he needs, and getting Najee Harris, running back. Then we have the Washington football team. Yeah, we have Washington here, getting Christian Darrisaw, the best offensive tackle available.
We don't need to get into it because this will be a 3-hour podcast if we do, but they're going to have a new name by September, right?
I hope so. I mean, I absolutely hope so. Then
go on.
Also speaking of Khalil Mack, the Bears are going to try to salvage Khalil Mack's contract now. It is expiring one with the Bears. Going Gregory Rousseau, edge guy out of Miami. Colts are going to get whoever plays quarterback for them some help at wide receiver, assuming T.Y. Hilton is gone. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. We have the Titans bolstering that defensive line, getting edge guy Jalen Phillips out of Miami. The Jets following the Dolphins mold and getting weapons, and more weapons, getting Travis Etienne, running back out of Clemson. The Steelers trying to rebuild that great offensive line after losing Villanueva, and now also Pouncey getting Elijah Vera Tucker, interior offensive lineman out of USC. Jaguars getting their hopeful franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle out of Michigan. Rounding off here, we have the Browns getting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame.
Nice pronunciation.
Ravens getting, you like that? Ravens getting Zaven Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa. Very versatile guy there to help build up that Ravens defense. Then we have the Saints getting that heir apparent to Michael Thomas, Terrace Marshall Jr., big 50-50 ball guy for Jameis Winston to have some fun with. Then round of applause for Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers finally getting him a first-round wide receiver. Kadarius Toney, absolutely electric receiver. Guy, let Aaron Rodgers make his life a little bit easier, throw that 4-yard slant, and take it to the house. Then the last 3 picks, we have the Buffalo Bills going linebacker Nick Bolton out of Missouri. Kansas City Chiefs trying to figure out what the hell went wrong in that Super Bowl game, getting a little bit more offensive line help. Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. And then the Buccaneers doing whatever they want, reaching for whatever they want, saying, hey, let's go linebacker just in case we don't re-sign Levante David and getting Dylan Moses, a very good prospect out of Alabama.
That's great. How about we can print this, I assume.
Yes, I'll leave that up on my.
We can save it for later.
Yes,
and when we do when we do our mock 2.0, we can see if this changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, who knows? Maybe we get a little fancy when we have, if we dedicate an entire episode to it, we can get fancy and do some trades in the next mock.
Yes,
it's very
definitely.
funny. My door. Somebody's knocking at my door. Leave me alone. Yeah. So that's exhausting. How do you do that every single day?
It's usually I don't do all 32 teams. I usually just do the Dolphins, but that was fun. It really gets you into the thought process of what each team is going to do. And I got kind of fortunate with this with the Dolphins. It could pan out very well for them. The Giants are going to have a little bit of a trickier draft, and it might be one that is a little upsetting to them. I think that's the reality of the situation.
They had to win that game against the Cowboys. They just had to do it at the end. They do it every year. They missed out on Chase Young. They're going to miss out on a wide receiver this year. If they just do things my way, they would have won a Super Bowl by now. But, also we didn't get into it, but like there was an article, I think you liked my tweet. There was an article about the Giants still being in the quote midst of a rebuild, end quote.
Yes.
And it's been like 4 or 5 years of Dave Gettleman already. We're still in the middle of it. I don't want to get into it because we'll be here till midnight, but maybe in a couple of weeks when we do our next episode. But before we wrap it up, anything we missed on this 2-hour marathon?
I don't think it was possible to miss anything today.
No,
again,
I think
everybody.
We got it all. I want to thank everyone for the questions.
Yes.
They were great questions.
Yes, definitely thank everybody for the questions, and wanted to thank everybody for sticking along up until this point. Again, expect a lot more mock drafts. Again, we will format it where it's not a 2-hour episode.
Yeah,
but
we'll do
these are a lot of fun.
Maybe we'll do one. We'll do mailbag, and then we'll do mock draft, but we won't do them at the same time. I think that was our.
Definitely.
I think that was our mistake this time, but it happens.
We'll learn.
There's a ton of podcasts that are like very long, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank everyone for listening. Appreciate Stick editing this marathon of a podcast.
Yes.
He's probably it's probably 3 a.m. at this point. He's probably driving himself insane. So thank you for that. But we will just about wrap this up. This has been the first of a ton of off-season coverage on the Ice the Kicker podcast. We're going to be here from now until training camp opens. We're not going to miss a beat. We might go to a every other week schedule, especially when we get to the kind of quiet parts of the off season. And then we'll definitely pick it up more towards, draft day, and then into mini camp and training camp. So we're not going anywhere, and we hope you don't either. For Matt Farrar, my name is Glen. Thank you for listening to Ice the Kicker, and we will see you next time.